The late morning sun streamed through the tall, stained glass windows of St. Augustine's Chapel, bathing the marble floor in swirls of ruby, emerald, and gold. The air smelled of lilies and roses, their perfume mingling with the faint trace of expensive cologne and designer perfumes worn by the wealthy guests. Every pew was filled with the kind of people who made headlines, their voices lowered to polite whispers, their eyes hungry for the spectacle to come. At the altar, Michael Carter stood tall and unshakable. His navy suit had been cut by one of Italy's finest tailors, the kind who didn't advertise their services because their work spoke for itself. Gold cufflinks winked under the light, a gift from his father, who had taught him that appearances were currency, and Michael had spent his life collecting both. At the far end of the aisle stood Alina Voss, the woman who would soon become Mrs. Carter. Tall, blonde, and effortlessly photogenic, she looked like a magazine cover brought to life. Her silk gown was an ocean of ivory, and her diamond earrings caught the light with every step she took. Cameras clicked in rapid bursts, immortalizing each moment. But not everyone in the room was looking at Alina with pure admiration. Some of the older guests exchanged sidelong glances. They remembered another wedding in this very chapel, just 4 years earlier. They remembered a different bride, Zanele Mbeki, a South African woman with skin like burnished bronze, eyes that lit up when she laughed, and a confidence that had made her magnetic. She had walked this same aisle wearing a white gown accented with beads from her homeland, holding Michael's hand as though she would never let it go. Her absence now was its own presence, a ghost in the room that no one dared to mention aloud. The organist's fingers moved to the keys, filling the chapel with the wedding march. Michael's smile widened, the smile of a man who believed he had finally perfected his life. Then the chapel doors swung open. A gust of warm air swept in, ruffling the petals scattered along the aisle. Every head turned. The music faltered. And framed in the golden light of the midday sun stood Zanele. She stepped into the chapel with the poise of a queen. Her fitted cream dress was simple but elegant, accented by a traditional beaded sash tied at her waist. The same coral and gold necklace she had worn on her wedding day to Michael lay against her collarbone, glowing in the light. Gasps rippled through the congregation. The photographer's cameras clicked in a frenzy. Zanele's heels tapped against the marble as she moved down the aisle, each step deliberate. Her eyes never left Michael's. Alina froze mid-step, her smile collapsing into confusion. "Michael," she whispered, barely audible. Michael's throat tightened. His hands gripped the edge of the altar. Zanele stopped halfway down the aisle, her voice calm but resonant. "Before you say I do, you need to tell her the truth." Whispers erupted instantly. "The truth? What's going on?" Michael tried to speak, but Zanele reached into her handbag and produced a slim leather folder. "I came here today," she said evenly, "to make sure this wedding doesn't happen under a lie." The tension was suffocating now. All eyes were on them. The pastor shifted uncomfortably. "Miss, perhaps we should—" "This is the place," Zanele said firmly. "And the time." Michael's voice cracked. "Zanele, please, you replaced me," she cut in, "but you didn't erase me." She opened the folder, revealing a stack of documents. "These are the contracts you signed under my name, the joint accounts you emptied without my knowledge. And these," she held up the final set of papers, "are our divorce papers, unsigned." A collective gasp filled the air. Alina's hand flew to her mouth. "You're still married?" Michael took a step toward her. "It's complicated." "No," Zanele said, her voice hard. "It's simple. You can't marry her because you never stopped being married to me." The weight of her words dropped into the room like a stone into deep water. The ripples reached every corner. Michael's lawyer, seated among the guests, was already on his phone. Alina backed away from the altar, her eyes fixed on Michael like he was a stranger she'd never met. "You told me she was gone," Alina said, her voice trembling. Michael reached for her, but she stepped back again. "You lied to me. About everything." Zanele closed the folder. "You lied to both of us." Gasps turned into murmurs of outrage. Guests leaned toward one another, their whispers sharp. The image Michael had so carefully crafted was crumbling in real time. The murmurs grew into a restless buzz. A few guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Others openly stared, their expressions ranging from shock to satisfaction. Everyone loves a scandal, especially when it plays out in real time. "Michael Carter, the man who could do no wrong," someone whispered near the back. "Guess that's over." Michael's composure was slipping. The vein in his temple throbbed. "This isn't the place, Zanele," he said, his voice low and threatening. "This is exactly the place," she replied. "You brought her here. In front of all these people promising her a future you were never free to give. I think they should know the man they're celebrating." Alina's lips trembled, but her eyes sharpened. "Show me," she said to Zanele. Zanele handed her the folder without hesitation. Alina flipped through the pages: bank statements, contracts, the unsigned divorce papers. Each sheet seemed to drain more color from her face. The guests craned, their necks trying to glimpse the damning evidence. Alina's hand shook as she closed the folder. She turned to Michael, her voice rising. "You told me she was nothing but your past, that she left you, that she—" Michael's jaw clenched. "I did what I had to do." "No," Zanele interrupted, stepping forward. "You did what served you. You took everything we built together and used it to polish the image you wanted. One without me in it." Michael glared at her, but the fire in her eyes didn't waver. "You could have handled this privately," he said. "You forfeited that right when you tried to erase me," she replied. Alina looked between them, then down at the folder again. "I can't do this," she said finally. She removed her engagement ring, placed it on the altar, and stepped away from Michael. The crowd gasped. Michael's hand shot out to stop her, but she moved too quickly, brushing past him without another glance. Cameras followed her exit, the click of shutters echoing like judgment. The pastor cleared his throat awkwardly. "Perhaps we should end this," Zanele finished for him. She turned to face the crowd. "I didn't come here to humiliate anyone. I came to make sure no one else was hurt by his lies." Michael's lawyer approached the altar, murmuring something urgently in his ear, but it was too late. The damage had been done. The story would be on every social feed by nightfall. Zanele didn't wait for a response. She turned on her heel and began walking toward the open doors. The midday sun poured over her as she stepped outside, its warmth settling over her like a long-awaited embrace. The voices behind her faded with each step. She didn't look back. For the first time in years, she felt free, not just from Michael, but from the shadow he had cast over her life. She reached the edge of the chapel steps and paused, taking in a deep breath of the fresh air. Somewhere in the distance, church bells rang for another ceremony, a reminder that not all vows were meant to be broken. Zanele smiled faintly, her fingers brushing the coral beads at her neck. They had always been a symbol of strength, a reminder of where she came from and who she was. She had walked into that chapel carrying the truth. She walked out carrying her freedom.